I like to know things.
So I'm John Breeding. I'm a psychologist here in Austin for a long time. I've also been active in working to challenge this practice called electroconvulsive therapy or psychiatric electroshock. Most of the times, I don't know about you two council members, but most of the time when we bring this to the public, the first reaction is either, you mean they're still doing that? The second reaction is typically, well, that's a medical issue, I don't know anything about it, and so I trust the doctors, so why are you talking to me? So hopefully this short presentation will address those questions. I'm going to tell you in general that our purpose with the Coalition for the Abolition of Electroshock in Texas is pretty clearly revealed by the name. We're an abolitionist group, right? So our general intention is to affect a change in which electroshock is placed on the history, on the museums, on the shelves of the Medical History Museum, along with other practices that started at the same time and have since been discontinued, including insulin coma shock and lobotomy, which was the ice pick in the orbital lobes of the eyes to disconnect and damage some of the frontal lobe tissue of the brain. Those were commonly accepted and celebrated psychiatric practices during the same time that psychiatric electroshock was practiced. Those became discontinued, psychiatric electroshock continued. Part of the argument nowadays is that this is a newer, safer electroshock, so I want to address that as well. We do have a specific purpose, though, in coming before you, and actually the Public Health and Human Services Committee is perfect for this, because we're not really trying to convince you or anyone about the medical issues involved here, although we do think that those need to be addressed if you're going to think about this issue. But we really feel strongly that this is a public health and a public safety issue, and so it belongs in front of this committee. In the same way that the city has an interest in ordinances and policies that are related to building codes, particularly around electrical work, to protect people from suffering damage by electrical shock, as an example. This is also a human rights issue, and we want to argue that this is really a human rights issue, and I think you'll get a better idea about that after you hear this testimony. We've been active for about 1.5 years. We dialogued with Seton Shoal Creek Hospital, which is one of the 2 hospitals here in Austin that does electroshock. Seton Shoal Creek does about 160 people a year. The second hospital is St. David's Hospital in their so-called geriatric program. So in total in Austin, there's about 200 people a year that are electroshocked. Most of them receive many treatments, so the number of treatments is much greater than that. In the country, the estimate is maybe 100,000 people a year. And historically in this country, you've got estimates of 6 million people or more have received this treatment, so it's large-scale practice. That's a little background. We have a dialogue with Seton Shoal Creek. I've got some information packets that I'm going to leave with you. They include documents and letters in our dialogue with Seton Shoal Creek. They include a few other documents and some video clips as well. Ultimately, Seton Shoal Creek said, well, we're not going to respond to your request and stop. We intend to continue doing electroshock. Since that time, we became publicly active. We've had 3 electroshock protests at Seton Shoal Creek in the last year. Our presentation will end with a short video clip from one of those. 2 weeks ago, we joined forces with some musicians in Austin who had been hurt by electroshock. You'll hear from a representative of one of those families today. But the 5th annual Rocky Erickson Ice Cream Social was also a celebration of electroshock survivors. It was also a rock to band shock concert. Rocky Erickson's an electroshock survivor. Townes Van Zandt, another famous Austin music legend, a shock survivor. His son, JT, played at our event. Jim Franklin, famous Austin artist, well known for his music art. He did the poster for our event. He's also an electroshock survivor. In fact, you'll hear from him today. So there was a number of artists that came together who all had been hurt by psychiatric electroshock, and that coalition and that involvement is going to continue, just as our presence is at Seton Shoal Creek. But we have a real specific desire. At this concert 2 weeks ago, we had a little petition, and we got a number of signatures. Our goal wasn't to overwhelm you with signatures because we're not asking for a referendum or anything like that, but it's just to present the communication to you. And I want to read the petition. Calling for action toward informing and protecting the citizens of Austin from psychiatric electroshock. We, the undersigned, consider psychiatric electroshock to be a cruel, harmful, and unnecessary procedure. We welcome the Austin City Council's current inquiry into the practice. We ask that the council take all actions within its power to help put an end to this practice, initially by 1, passing a city ordinance declaring any facility or individual who practices psychiatric electroshock to be ineligible for any contractual or other referral or funding arrangement with the city. Number 2, passing a resolution statement describing the procedure and practice, outlining safety and efficacy, recommending a moratorium, encouraging city hospitals to develop alternative programs, etc.
Thank you.
The third item that occurs to us is that you may desire to actually hold a full-blown public hearing on the issue to get more information if you decide that it's worth looking into. And we would certainly support that and welcome a dialogue, active public debate in a public forum with those who want to defend and celebrate the practice. There is at least one city area that has addressed electroshock quite a bit. In 1975, San Francisco had a moratorium on electroshock for several years. In 1982, the Berkeley Board of Supervisors actually passed an ordinance banning electroshock. It lasted for 40 days. In 1991, San Francisco passed a resolution after 2 days of public hearings. Okay. Now I just want to say a little bit to just give you a little bit of background and perspective on the issue of electroshock. And I want to go from 1938 to 2007 in very short order. Because electroshock was invented or discovered, or whatever you want to call it, as a practice in 1938 by a man named Ugo Cerletti in Italy. He had been experimenting on animals for a while and they kept dying. Finally he noticed in a slaughterhouse, pig slaughterhouse, that they were using electricity to stun the pigs before they were slaughtered, and it didn't kill them. And he realized that he was running the current through the body instead of through the head, so he decided to experiment with running the current through the head. They picked up a vagrant on the streets in Rome. The first attempt to induce a convulsion with electricity on this vagrant failed because insufficient current was applied. According to Cerletti, quote, "It was proposed we should allow the patient to have some rest and repeat the experiment the next day. All at once the patient, who evidently had been following the conversation, said clearly and solemnly, without his usual gibberish, 'Not another one, it's deadly.' Despite the subject's plea, a second and stronger shock was administered, triggering the seizure." If you start to listen to a bunch of people who've had electroshock, you'll discover that they tend to still feel the same way that this man felt. And you'll hear from a few of them today. And by the way, referring to the first use of electroshock on a human being, Cerletti wrote, quote, "When I saw the patient's reaction, I thought to myself, this ought to be abolished." So I'm an abolitionist, and so was the founder of electroshock.